the elephant in the room that's really funny here is that you have the people on the left saying that only people with lots of money are smart enough to be allowed to do this, which I think is just a very funny position to take. If you just like, you have to have a few $1,000,000 to be sophisticated enough to be allowed to do this. Like, I like your idea, Jake, of a test. Like there should be some other way of accessing this if you really want to. I mean, I agree. Listen, I don't want to live in a world where we're all constantly being spammed to the average person by like stupid financial stuff. That's just like, we would be scammed all the time. There probably should be some rules. Like, I agree. I'm not like a total libertarian on this. I think it'd be really annoying. But just to totally block people from participating, to me, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, right, like, listen, I mean, a finance college professor, might, unless they had another job, might not, be able to do these things.
They would have to make $250,000. Let's talk about a very important public market set of transactions. Gavin, I'd like your point of view on Michael Saylor's convertible note issuances being used to buy Bitcoin. Which this morning, Bloomberg reported is the hottest trade in hedge funds right now. Wow. Nick, if you could pull up the article. And then JCal, I know you've been an outspoken opinion setter on Michael Saylor's promotion of his securities actions. We'd love your point of view. Gavin?
I would just say at some point, this does get too big. For a while, when it was smaller, you could support the debt.
And sorry, could you explain it? Could you explain it to everyone, Gavin?
Yeah. So what he is doing is issuing debt and buying Bitcoin with the premise that Bitcoin is always going to go up. And he, has made eloquent arguments why that is the case. No trees grow to the sky. And I think the interest expense on his convertible notes is $75 million off the top of my head. And by the way, I could care less about MicroStrategy. Like, I'm not close to it. I'm not involved.
Yeah.
I don't know any hedge funds who own it.
No horse in the race.
Yeah. I think a lot of hedge funds are short MicroStrategy, but I have no horse in the race. But the underlying business that, pays the interest expense on the debt only does $400 million a year in revenue, and it's, high gross margin revenue. But unless debt investors have absolute confidence in Bitcoin as collateral, and I don't think that's where fixed income markets are yet, it will get to a point where it is too big for the size of his company. And then, maybe he can over collateralize it and, have $10 in Bitcoin for every dollar of debt. But then, like, the magic money creation machine that, I see discussed on X breaks down, because that's like, that's very, very different than what is being discussed today.
Joe, do you have a point of view? Because Joe's got to run, by the way. So, Joe, you want to close us out with a point of view?
Defense people down here in LA.
Yeah.
Listen, I am very bullish Bitcoin. I love all the energy for our society around it. I agree with what you said, Dave, that there needs to be some barriers for the public taking crazy risks. And I think the risks around how he's accessing this is actually very unusual and does scare me a bit. And people need to do their research, and they shouldn't just throw money without studying it. It does scare me a little bit how blithely people are throwing money at this without knowing the kind of leverage he's taking,
Yeah. Joe, anything else you want to share that you're up to that you're excited about before you head out?
This weekend is the annual defense forum at the Reagan Library where I'm on the board. It's the biggest defense event of the year. Everyone's coming. And I guess I'm really excited that America has woken up, and assuming we can bring back more advanced manufacturing here, I think there's enough top companies now with Anduril, with Saronic. We're going to be building thousands of these vessels for the Navy with AI. With EPRIS, we're turning things off, 10 miles away, whatever, fairly far away with microwave radiation. There's some really cool technology coming that actually is going to make us be able to deter enemies. So if you asked me 6-7 years ago, I was panicked. We're going to get way behind China. I'm feeling really good about it now. I think, and I think just the Pete Hegseth pick, is actually someone I'm quite bullish on from everything I'm hearing. So I think things are going the right direction.
Is there a wholesale upgrade happening in defense in the United States? Are all systems and all strategies being rethought right now using technology and innovation and kind of a performance-based product mindset leading kind of a reinvention of everything? Is that what's going to happen in the next 4 years?
Warfare is fundamentally totally shifted. We're seeing some of this in Ukraine. There's all sorts of new ways you want to swarm things on the land, swarm things in the water, swarm things in the air. how do they coordinate and how do they work together? How do you manufacture enough of these things? And how do you use electronic warfare in new ways to, it's basically created by this. And so that is just a whole new way of doing things. And we are going that direction. Too much of the money, David, like 95% of the money is still going towards frankly, wasteful legacy, mostly things we don't need.
Plus maintenance and
it's
systems.
Old-fashioned. Yeah. But enough is shifting, and there's enough good people fighting. And as long as we keep just allowing open competition, allow it to say, okay, which is better, and just let the best things win. As long as we keep doing that, I think it's going the right way. I'm feeling very good about it.
Is the Chinese position shift in their technology strategy and their system strategy going to motivate a shift here, do you think? And
it already has.
A shift underway?
It already has. I mean, it definitely already has.
So we don't need big aircraft carriers. We don't need F-35s. We need drones. We need lasers. I think
there's a role. I think there's a role for carriers and force projection. I don't think we need incrementally a ton more of them. I'm not like this crazy radical where you get rid of all this. But yeah, on the margin, I'd much rather have 10,000 more smart drones above and below the water than an incremental carrier, right? So there's on the margin, there's all these things that are better uses of money, and I think we're pushing that way.
And is there a huge tidal wave of venture money? I was at a dinner last night where there was this conversation about defense tech used to be off limits, and a lot of LPAs say you can't invest in defense companies. That's now changed or is changing, and everyone's kind of coming up with their own defense tech strategy. Do you think, I mean, you were obviously early in this, Gavin. I don't know if you're an investor in this space, but are you guys seeing a big shift? Yeah.
I obviously, listen, there's only been 9 unicorns, I think, still at this point, and I started 3 of them and invested in 3 of them in the first round. So I'm obviously pretty involved in the space. And I think, listen, it helps me if there's more money for my companies, which is really great.
Right.
I think there's probably the right answer for the US. It's not going to be 1,000 businesses or 100 businesses. It's going to be 7 to 10 new primes. One of them's obviously Underroll. I think one is probably Saronic and Everest. We'll see. But there's going to be 7 to 10 new primes, and that's what it's going to be. So there's going to be a lot of zeros and a lot of bad investments. But yes, these 7 to 10 new primes are going to be huge. And if you can get access to them, you're going to do really well.
Gavin, how do you look at that market? You agree?
I agree with everything Joe said. The only thing I would just add on China, what we are doing by restricting their access to advanced compute and advanced networking. If you have read or watched the three-body problem, America is unfolding a SOFON over China.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
I have been really impressed with some of the Chinese models that have come out. And I think the risk to this strategy is necessity is the mother of invention. And despite this handicap, they're managing to stay just behind the leading edge of America, which is amazing. But, NVIDIA's Blackwell chip comes out next year. You're going to have new chips from AMD, new ASICs from Broadcom. And I think at that point, it is not going to be possible for them to keep up anymore.
So that's actually positive regulation and great, in your mind, foreign policy.
It is very aggressive foreign policy.
Yeah. Clearly,
that could have lots of unforeseen consequences.
Yeah. What do you think about the rare earth trade restrictions coming to us? And is that going to actually affect the supply?
We have lots of rare earth here in America. In America, we have everything in America.
Yeah.
And I think there's a project underway to restart rare earth production.
Yeah.
If there ever to be a conflict,
it's just all
this stuff would go away.
Yeah.
It's a cost, and it's allowing us to do the refining here. So refining some of this stuff, we desperately need gallium nitride for things I'm doing, right, with shooting the microwave radiation. The problem is the refining is really messy. If you let it happen in the US, it will still be messy, but it will be cleaner. But we're not letting it happen. So there's things like this.
So we're back to regulation, and obviously the cost here is different. We have a different cost structure.
Joe, you got to go meet 20 senators. So thank you.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Joe.
This was fun.
Thanks, Joe. Good times.
JCal, do you want to talk about AI with Gavin and
I think that would be a great next place to go. Would be to talk about the supercomputer being built by a friend of the pod, Elon. He's now got the world's largest supercomputer, and he's going to 10x it, according to reports.
Yeah, and I would just say this is, I think, a very important moment for AI. For this entire AI trade in public and private markets. Everybody, I'm sure, who watches your podcast is very aware of scaling laws. And we have not had a scaling laws for training, where if you 10x the amount of compute used to train a model, you significantly improve the intelligence and capability of that model. And often there are these, kind of emergent properties that emerge alongside that that higher IQ. No one thought it was possible to make more than 25,000, maybe 30,000, 32,000, pick a number, NVIDIA hoppers coherent. And what coherent means is in a training cluster that each GPU, to kind of simplify it, knows what every other GPU is thinking. So every GPU in that 30,000 cluster knows what the other 29,999 are thinking. And you need a lot of networking to make that happen.
Enabled by InfiniBand, right?
InfiniBand, and I think even more importantly, NVLink. Although a lot of Ethernet is, never bet against the internet, never bet against Ethernet. Like if you read the Llama 3.1 technical paper, got a lot of people excited about skinny link Ethernet. But
just to slow down for the audience here, Gavin, maybe explain why transporting information between the GPUs is important. And we're talking